Welcome back to the HoopStop, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at the most underrated player on every NBA team. Starting off with the Atlanta Hawks, I gotta go with John Collins. John Collins has shown growth this season and is averaging 21.5 points on 58% shooting and 40% from three. John Collins is also averaging 10 rebounds and has shown that he is a good defender, averaging 1.5 blocks per game. For the Boston Celtics, I'm picking Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward has had an incredible bounce-back year this year, and while he is often overshadowed by Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown and other Celtics stars, don't let that fool you. Before Gordon Hayward got hurt this season, he was putting on a show for all Boston fans and NBA fans. For the Brooklyn Nets, it's got to be Jared Allen. Jared Allen is one of the most underrated big men in the league, while he has shown to be one of the best defenders and best shot blockers in the league. Jared Allen is one of the main reasons the Nets are in the playoffs as of now, and is averaging a solid 10.6 points on 65% shooting. With the Charlotte Hornets, I gotta go with P.J. Washington. P.J. Washington was picked with the 12th pick in the draft, and has so far turned out to be a very solid pick. He is one of the most underrated rookies in the class, and is one of the few bright spots in a Charlotte Hornets future. The most underrated player on the Chicago Bulls is Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell Carter Jr. was drafted with the 7th pick in 2018, and while he has not lived up to that much hype, he has still turned out to be a very solid NBA player. With the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have to go with Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton might be the most underrated player in the league. While only in his second season, is averaging 21 points per game and is shown to be a very good playmaker for this young Cleveland Cavaliers core. He is one of the bright futures for the Cleveland Cavaliers and could even be a potential all-star in the up-and-coming future. Coming with the Dallas Mavericks, I gotta go with Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, there's a big difference between underrated and overpaid, and I believe that comes in here. Just because someone is overpaid does not mean they're overrated. Tim Hardaway Jr. has a 4-year, $71 million contract, but is averaging 16 points per game on pretty good efficiency, and has been a really good role player for the Dallas Mavericks, and everyone is sleeping on him. With the Denver Nuggets, it was a close race between Jeremiah Grant and Will Barton, but I had to give the edge to Jeremiah Grant. Since being traded to Denver, Grant has averaged a solid 12 points per game, which doesn't seem too special, but his numbers go beyond the stat line, as when he's on the court, he is a difference maker, and has even dropped a career-high 29 points per game on the Denver Nuggets. Coming in with the Detroit Pistons, it's gotta be Luke Kennard. Before the season started, everyone was sleeping on Luke, and now, after the season's been suspended, he's averaged a really good 16 points per game, and has shown to be the most underrated player in the 2017 draft class and one of the best shooters in that draft class. With the Golden State Warriors, it's gotta be Damian Lee. While there were not a lot of good options for this atrocious team, Damian Lee, as the starting shooting guard, took the opportunity and seized it. He has averaged a solid 13 points per game, and while he still needs to work on his efficiency, is averaging 1 steal a game, and who knows, maybe he could have a bright future ahead of him. With the Houston Rockets, it was between Daniel House Jr. and Jeff Green. Jeff Green had the slight edge on offense, but overall, I have to give it to Daniel House Jr. Daniel House Jr. has averaged 10.2 points while averaging 1.1 steals a game, which shows that he is not only good on offense, but he is a solid defensive player. Daniel House has came out of nowhere this season and has lit the league on fire. With the Indiana Pacers, this was probably the easiest decision for me in this video. I have to go with T.J. Warren. T.J. Warren is leading the Pacers in scoring. Yeah, you heard me right. Over Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, and Miles Turner. And it's not like he's doing that on bad efficiency. He's shooting 53% from the field. He has been slept on for all of his career, and is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. For the Los Angeles Clippers, I have to go with Montrezl Harrell. Now, I know Montrezl Harrell is well known by many NBA fans, but what NBA fans do not realize is that he's averaging 18.5 points per game on 58% shooting from the field, over 7 rebounds, and over 1 block a game. Montrezl Harrell is the clear frontrunner for Sixth Man of the Year. And yeah, you heard me right. He's doing all of this while coming off the bench. For the Los Angeles Lakers, it has to be Dwight Howard. While Dwight Howard is only averaging 7.5 points per game, he's shooting 73% from the field. That's second in the league. And is even shooting 60% from three. All right, I know he's only attempted 0.1 three-pointers a game, but still, it's Dwight Howard. He's also averaging 7.4 rebounds and 1.2 blocks a game. For the Memphis Grizzlies, it was between Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. I had to go with Dillon Brooks, though, because of how little NBA fans know of Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks is averaging near 16 points per game on a Memphis Grizzlies team that's the 8th seed in a tough Western Conference. Dillon Brooks' stats do not give justice to how much his presence is meant to the Memphis Grizzlies on the floor. With the Miami Heat, it's got to be Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson has shown tremendous growth, and in just 2018 was an undrafted rookie having to join Big X, a team composed of former Big Ten players in a basketball tournament 2018. Duncan Robinson, in his first season in the NBA, averaged only 3.3 points on 28% shooting from three. And this season, he's having a career year averaging 13.3 points on 45% from three, and was even in the three-point competition. He is a huge part of the Miami Heat's success and has a bright future ahead of him. The most underrated player on the Milwaukee Bucks is George Hill. George Hill is having a career year in shooting and is shooting 48% from three. 48% and leads the league in three-point percentage. He has taken a lesser role on the team and is only averaging 9.5 points, which often leads to people forgetting about him when he leads the league in three-point percentage and shoots 53% from the field. George Hill is a huge part of the Bucks' success. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, this was an easy choice. I had to go with Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley has only played 14 games for the Timberwolves after being traded there from the Denver Nuggets. But in those 14 games, he's averaged 21 points on 47% from the field and 43% from three. He's also grabbed a solid 5 rebounds. This is incredible, seeing as he's only averaged 8 points on the Nuggets on 38% shooting and 36% from three. Malik Beasley is a great fit for this Timberwolves roster. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I had to go with Lonzo Ball. Now, I know all the hype didn't turn out about Lonzo Ball, but on the Pelicans, he is extremely underrated and is having a career year in points, rebounds, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage, and has even gotten it up to 38%, which is a lot better than 33%. He is still averaging a solid 7 assists and 1.4 steals, and he is a solid role player on the New Orleans Pelicans. For the New York Knicks, I gotta go with Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson is having a career year in every category except blocks, and is averaging a solid 10 points, 7 rebounds, on 74% from the field. Nothing much, just 74%. The most in NBA history, while also grabbing an incredible 2 blocks and 1 steal. Mitchell Robinson, in my opinion, is the most underrated big man in the league and is one of the best inside defenders. This is some old high school footage, and you can tell he's been a baller his whole life. For the OKC Thunder, I thought it was a pretty obvious choice. I have to go with Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, while I consider him the runner-up to sixth man behind Montrezl Harrell, don't let that fool you. He is still averaging 19 points on 47% from the field and 38% from three, which is solid, off the bench. He's also grabbing a nice 4 assists and 3.7 rebounds. Dennis Schroeder is one of the key components in the Thunder's surprising success this season, and I expect him to develop more as a player. For the Orlando Magic, it's got to be Evan Fournier. Now, despite the Orlando Magic only being the 8th seed in the East, which they are every year, Evan Fournier is putting on a show for all Magic fans. He's averaging 19 points per game on 47% shooting from the field and 41% shooting from three. Additionally, he's averaging a nice solid 1.1 steals per game. Evan Fournier has become the second option on this playoff Magic team. Now, despite the Philadelphia 76ers' disappointing season this season, I gotta go with, for their most underrated player, Shake Milton. There was not a lot of choices to choose from the 76ers, as their star players as Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, are all perfectly rated. But Shake Milton is averaging 9.5 points per game on 50% shooting from the field and 45% from three. He is also averaging 2.2 assists and 2.1 rebounds, and has come in as the sixth man of the team. For the Phoenix Suns, I have to go with DeAndre Ayton. Now, I know DeAndre Ayton hasn't lived up to the hype of being the first overall pick, ahead of Trae Young and Luka Doncic. But what people do not realize is that DeAndre Ayton is averaging 19 points and 12 rebounds a game, and has become into a solid defender, averaging 1.7 blocks per game, and is constantly working on his defense and getting better. He is also shooting 55% from the field, and while this is a step down from last season when he was shooting 58%, it is still tremendously good. For the Portland Trail Blazers, I have to go with Hassan Whiteside. There is not a lot of options for the Portland Trail Blazers, but Hassan Whiteside is averaging 16 points and grabbing 14 rebounds per game, but that's not even the craziest part. He's averaging 3.1 blocks a game and is leading the NBA in blocks a game. He is also second in rebounds per game and is shooting 62% from the field and 57% from three. For the Sacramento Kings, I think it's got to be Richaun Holmes. I loved Richaun Holmes when he was on Phoenix, and he always comes to every single game with tremendous work ethic and hustle. Richaun Holmes took over the Sacramento Kings when Dwayne Dedmon got hurt, and since then has averaged 13 points per game, shooting 65% from the field, and grabbing 8 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1.4 blocks a game. Richaun Holmes has had huge success with the Sacramento Kings, and this should raise his price and contract value on the market. For the San Antonio Spurs, I have to go with DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is averaging a solid 11 points per game on 48% shooting from the field, but what really stands out is a tremendous on-ball defense and perimeter defense. He is averaging 1.7 steals a game, and the stats don't even show everything. All of the little things he does on the floor add up. He is also averaging a solid 5.8 rebounds a game and 4.1 assists, and is extremely underrated on the San Antonio Spurs. With the Toronto Raptors, I have to go with Serge Ibaka. Now, this was a close one, and you could say that it's OG Anunoby or Norman Powell, but I had to go with the 30-year-old Serge Ibaka because he's averaging 16 points per game on 52% shooting from the field and 40% from three, while also grabbing 8.5 rebounds and 1.5 assists a game. He is also averaging a solid 0.8 blocks a game and half a steal a game. Now, I went with Serge over Norman Powell and OG Anunoby because a lot of people think that Serge is washed up, and this season he's proving that he's the opposite, in fact, and he's still a solid role player for the Toronto Raptors. For the Utah Jazz, I have to go with Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson, since getting to the Utah Jazz, has been a walking bucket, and not just his stats show that, but even with his stats, he is averaging 15.6 points per game on 48% shooting from the field and 36.6% shooting from three. For the Washington Wizards, I have to go with Davis Bertans. Now, this was pretty obvious. The Latvian Davis Bertans is averaging 15.5 points per game on 43.4% shooting from the field and 42.4% shooting from three. He was in the three-point contest this year and got third over guys such as Trae Young, Duncan Robinson, and many more. If you want to subscribe and leave a like, that would be greatly appreciated, and expect more videos like this to come as we are trying to grow our channel and maybe even start doing IRL videos.